All right, guys, good morning. I did a video a couple hours ago talking about some Sam Darnold stuff, and we got to kind of do a companion video to that. I alluded to that at the end of that first video. So if you haven't watched that first video, you probably should, because these two videos are kind of meant to go together, because this conversation was always going to be kind of linked, right? And yeah, he did it again, guys. I think I feel safe saying it now, and it's not going to come back and hurt me. It's not going to come back and bite me. A lot of people were asking, when are you going to make the Geno Smith video? When are you going to talk about Geno Smith? I wanted to be sure. I wanted to feel like I wasn't going to go out there, make a video, and then 2 weeks later have it be on the ice cold sports takes X account or whatever. So I wanted to make sure, but yeah, he did it again. And I'm going to do something else again. I'm going to tell you guys about Sleeper back in 60 seconds. All right, guys, let's take a minute so I can tell you about Sleeper, a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on sports games in real time with other users. You can get the fastest scores, blazing fast sports news and sports alerts right at your fingertips. And of course, you can use Sleeper to play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. This is the way sports were meant to be enjoyed together. So download Sleeper today. Use promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. And you can pair that with another promo they have right now where you can get a $20 entry free with no deposit required. So get both of those things going. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper today, get to it, and go have some fun with sports this year. All right, welcome back. And this video is going to be about Geno Smith. It's also going to be about his coach in Las Vegas, Pete Carroll, because these were two high-profile decisions the Seahawks made over the last less than 2 years to move off of Pete Carroll and then move off of Geno Smith. And so far, and I know it's early, and in the case of Pete Carroll, it's very early because I imagine that he's got multiple years to get this right. Geno, maybe not. But so far, I am feeling pretty good about what my team did. I am. And I'm not making this video to like dance on anyone's grave because I don't want to do that. Honestly, I would not have minded if the Raiders were good this year, but it is what it is. And look, I need to be able to look at data and parse it objectively and fairly, right? That's something I'd really try hard to do here. And through the first 5 games of the year, Geno Smith has been virtually unplayable. And it's not just the box score stats. You guys know I don't care about box score stats. I don't care about surface level stuff that much. It comes into play every now and then, but for the most part, like I say, things like passing yards and touchdowns and interceptions, that's just fantasy football stuff. And I don't play a lot of fantasy football. But it's going deeper than that here. And this tweet that I have on screen right here kind of goes through some of it. His completion percentage is below the expected based on the situations he's being put in. A low percentage of his throws are catchable, 31st in the league. I believe this is before yesterday, by the way, where Geno again did not play very well. These numbers are from before that game yesterday, just to give you an idea here. He's turning it over. He's putting the ball at risk. These are not all just like, we're not talking about fluky turnovers. There have been a couple of those. And then you have turnovers like his arm punt on 3rd down where he basically just lofted it up and it got picked off. But even without that, he's putting the ball in harm's way. He's taking a lot of sacks. He's not getting the ball down the field. Like, nothing is really going well for him. He's not individually, independently of the situation, of the circumstance, of the context, he's playing really poorly. And while I know it's only been 5 games, watching him play, and I haven't watched every Raiders game, I'm not going to pretend like I do. The only team that I watch every play of is the Seahawks. I don't really have time for anything else. It's not just, oh, the numbers are bad. No, his arm is very different. So what I'm trying to get to here when it comes to Geno Smith is, when you take a look at where his arm was last year, he had a golden arm last year. He's had a golden arm throughout basically his entire career. It was able to fit the ball into tight windows. It was able to make throws that very few players in the league can. And then you look at it now where the accuracy is not there. He can't zip the ball in the way he used to. And he's still trying to zip it in that way because he's so used to being able to make those throws. What I'm trying to get at here is that he lost it a lot quicker than I thought. And he lost it just at the exact time that the Seahawks, and namely John Schneider, decided to move off of him. And I said earlier in this video, he did it again. He did the same thing with Russell Wilson. Now, it's not the same thing because he got a massive trade haul for Russell Wilson. He did not do that for Geno Smith. But it doesn't really matter. When the quarterback is playing like this, it doesn't even matter if you got nothing for him. You could have given him away. Having the quarterback that is playing at this level is very costly. Having a quarterback that decomposed in a single offseason is so noxious and toxic to your team's chances of winning. You could trade the quarterback, throw in a draft pick, and it's still a really good thing. Because this is the kind of stuff that I have to say completely sinks your offense. Now, obviously, the Raiders have proven to be a pretty awful situation, but again, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of stuff going on here that is independent of that. Like, the Raiders have a miserable offensive line. They've really been struggling to run the ball. They have one half-decent receiver in Jacoby Myers. Brock Bowers has been injured all year. They have big problems. They do. But I think that even if you remove all of that, there is very little recognizable between the Geno Smith of the last 3 years in Seattle and the Geno Smith we have right now. So he did it again. He did it again. And I got to give him a lot of credit because I did not think now was the time to move off of Geno Smith. I did not think he was just going to completely lose his arm. I did not think that he was going to just completely... I don't even really know what to compare it to. It's kind of like, it's almost like Brett Favre that last year in Minnesota, 2010. 2009, Brett Favre was one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and statistically, he had the best season of his career. The next year, he was not just he was the worst starting quarterback in the league until he got benched. He was basically unplayable. And that's kind of what's happened with Geno. And I don't know if John got lucky. I don't know if John just has a sixth sense here. I don't know if he just never really liked Geno Smith that much and he kind of just caught the exact right moment by kind of chance. I don't know if he just loves Sam Darnold and decided he wanted to throw his hat in the ring with him. I don't know what it is, but he found the exact right moment to do it. And somebody else, just like with Russell Wilson, another team is going to have to pay the bill, it looks like. And again, I acknowledge the fact that he could bounce back and start playing really well, but I don't know, the arm just doesn't look like it's there anymore to me. I think that his arm has regressed heavily, and he leaned on that thing a lot. He's not the greatest decision maker of all time. Even when he got an MVP vote with Seattle a few years ago, he wasn't a Tom Brady decision maker. He was good pre-snap, but he wasn't a complete pre-snap wizard. No, he depended on his arm to make sick throws. And he made a lot of sick throws here, but when you lose that arm and you don't adjust the other parts of your game to account for it, you turn into 2010 Brett Favre. You turn into, I can't even say 2020 Drew Brees. 2020 Drew Brees wasn't like this. And again, 2010 Brett Favre is the best I can do. So I will remain appreciative and grateful for everything Geno Smith did for the Seahawks. I think we got 20, 25, 30 times more out of Geno Smith than I or any reasonable person could have expected when we signed him and named him the starter initially. I think that and I do regret the fact that this team was unable to build a real contender while they had him playing at that high level. I think that there were a lot of mistakes made, and I think we kind of wasted the accidental, I call Geno Smith kind of like the accidental franchise quarterback, because he was literally just out there and he almost retired and anybody could have had him and you got him for very little money, and then suddenly he's just making Aaron Rodgers throws. You know, I have a lot of regrets about that. I think it really is lame that we got that we were the team lucky enough to get that, and we did nothing with it. But I can also look at it and say he is not the same quarterback that we had. Not even close. He might be losing his job soon. That's like a realistic possibility here. I don't think that he will, because that's not Pete's style. Pete, I think, would rather ride it out with his guy. I think that Pete, look, his loyalty, there are things about loyalty that are commendable. There are also some things about it that make you seem very, I think in this context, you might say kind of uninterested in actually winning games. It makes it seem like you're valuing something more than winning, which when you work for a professional sports team probably gets very annoying. So that's the Geno part of this. The Pete Carroll part, I'm not going to spend as much time on because, again, the Raiders have been bad for a while. Obviously, Pete Carroll was not going to show up and fix them. But I also think that there was an expectation that the Raiders would at least show that they are on the right path. And so far through the first 5 games, I don't think that's been the case. I don't think the Raiders look like they're on the right path. Granted, they don't have a lot to work with, right? Their defense has one good player right now, Max Crosby. That's like their only blue chipper. That might be their only player that's even better than a slightly above average. And one off season was not going to fix that. Their offensive line is one of the worst in the league suddenly. And one off season was not going to fix that. They may have made some mistakes in the offseason, like getting Gentil instead of an offensive lineman. That may have been a mistake. I don't know what Gentil is at this point. I think that there's a lot of polarization around what kind of player he is. But it doesn't feel like they're headed the right way, too. They're getting blown out in a lot of these games. They're not really doing any of the stuff that Pete Carroll likes, like avoiding turnovers. They're not, I don't think they're tackling particularly well. You're seeing a lot of, Pete Carroll loves the bend, don't break defense. The Raiders defense is more bend, then break over and over and over again. So it doesn't seem like he has them moving in the right way. And the thing with Carroll is that he doesn't have an eternity to get this right. So there's a real possibility here that if this season goes really badly, like it looks like it's going to, and then next year starts bad or is bad, that might just be it. And that may not be fair to Pete. He might need more than a couple seasons to implement his vision and get things going the right way. But right now, he does look like he's just a little out of his element. Looks like he doesn't really have the ability to turn it around. And here's the thing with Pete, to me. Thinking about Pete, one thing that I always thought was commendable was he would find a way to win games and get pretty good production out of a very low level of talent. His first year in Seattle, 2010, that team had almost no talent whatsoever. That team had a miserable roster. There was almost nothing good on that whole team. And he, with an offense that could not score and with a defense that couldn't stop anybody, won 7 games and won a playoff game. Now, it was a huge fluke that they were able to win that really, really bad division, but that was a 4-win team that somehow won 7 games, and I think Pete deserved a lot of credit for that. 2018, the Seahawks defense had very little talent. There was very little going on that defense that was good at all, and a lot of the good pieces on that defense that we had got injured and didn't play very much. So for that defense to be above average like it was that year, 2018, that was another thing I was looking at and thinking to myself, wow, Pete can really get a lot out of a little. He can take chicken crap and make chicken salad. So part of the Pete Carroll experience is finding ugly ways to win, and right now, he's not even close to doing that, so it's not working. All right, so I just wanted to spend a video to talk about that because people have been asking, and I understand why, because I was a big Geno Smith guy. I really liked him. I didn't want to move off of him when we did. I didn't think it was going to come this quick, guys. I did not think the cliff was going to come this fast, but it really did. It really did. And I don't know where we're going to go from here, but I'm pretty confident I'm not going to be here in 2 weeks. Well, looking at this video getting posted on Ice Cold Takes or whatever, because Geno dropped like 5 touchdowns in 2 straight games. I don't see that happening. I'll take my chances at this point is what I'm trying to say. And at the end of the day, and I want to be very clear about this, I want the team that I root for, the team that I have rooted for since 1996, to do the right things. I want them to make the right decisions. That is my priority here, right? A lot of people said, well, okay, not a lot of people, but I had some people out there this offseason kind of intimating that, well, why don't you just go root for the Raiders? Why don't you just root for the Raiders to win the Super Bowl or whatever, or make the playoffs or something like that? And guys, I said this once or twice during the offseason. If the Raiders actually made the playoffs this year with our old head coach and our old quarterback, and Seattle didn't, which some people seem to think that I wanted to happen for some reason, I was gonna have a stroke. There's no scenario where that should happen. With our schedule versus their schedule, with our division versus their division, like that shouldn't even be a possibility. There should have been, I think I said this right before the season started, there should be no path to the playoffs for a team like the Raiders in that division. And I made it very clear, if that actually happens, if our old head coach that we fired and our old quarterback that we traded for very, very little, a 3rd-round pick, is actually able to immediately turn a team as hapless as the Raiders around, and my favorite team continues to kind of just languish in mediocrity, no, I was going to be furious. I was going to be as mad as I have ever been about anything to do with sports. So I'm not happy that Geno and Pete are doing so badly in Vegas, but I am happy that this team seems to have made the right decision on both counts. All right, so I got a lot to talk about with regards to yesterday's game. Those videos are coming. They're obviously going to get pushed back a little bit because I decided to do the video earlier and this video now. I just decided to go with it because it's time. I didn't want to make the video too early, but it was time. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. See you soon.